about if I just start at the beginning? you could be honest.
Because you know what? They have the sweat equity that went into that memory that they're making with their friends and family. And that's what's important with us. And that's what the I Am Real world's about.
Well, that's a great question. You know, one of the best things about a spring food plot is you get a second chance if it fails.
Chasing Giants with Don Higgins. Brought to you by buyafarm.com, your source for farm, recreational properties, rural homes, and more. By tapping into Don's years of experience, dedication, and commitment, Chasing Giants focuses on the techniques, strategies, and dedication needed to harvest one of God's most amazing creations, world-class whitetails. Now, here is Don and co-host Terry Peer.
Well, welcome everyone to Chasing Giants, episode 9. Don Higgins, how are you doing tonight, buddy?
Good. How are you, Terry?
I'm doing well. It's November 30th. It's Saturday night after Thanksgiving. I assume you guys had a good holiday with the family?
Yeah, we sure did. How about you?
Yeah, we had a good one. We celebrated with my wife's family on Thanksgiving Day, and then yesterday went up and visited my parents up on the east side of Cincinnati. They live about 40 minutes away, so 2 big meals. Don't want to see turkey for a couple more days.
Yeah, I've seen the pictures on social media of your turkey on the smoker.
Yeah, I have one of those big pellet smokers, so unfortunately I get turkey duty to fix turkeys for all the family Thanksgiving.
Yeah, well, somebody's got to do it.
So yeah, they turn out better. So it's a good time. My neighbor and I sat out in the garage and watch a little football and talk about hunting while the turkey's on the smoker. So it's a good time.
All right.
So last Saturday we had our podcast from Marshall, and I want to thank everybody for the support. That in the first 24 hours got the most downloads of any podcast that we've released so far on episode 8. And we just keep getting more and more positive feedback and more downloads every time we put it out there. So we really appreciate the support.
Yeah, absolutely. We couldn't do it without the folks that listen in. So, I mean, if we was just talking to ourselves, there'd be no sense doing it. But all the feedback we get, the questions you guys send in, and, the messages of support, we really appreciate it.
Yeah, the best thing you can do to help us when you download that podcast and subscribe to it is leave a review or comment. That helps other people that's searching for this topic to find us a whole lot quicker. But sure do appreciate everybody's support. It's been very overwhelming.
Absolutely.
So what's been going on with you? We'll get to the buck I shot on Sunday last week, but outside of Thanksgiving, what have you been into?
Well, yesterday, the day after Thanksgiving, I went out and checked a bunch of cameras. I think I was on 5 different properties checking cameras. The interesting thing was that on one of the properties, I got a picture of a buck that morning, early in the morning, right before daylight, of a young buck that I've got high hopes for in the future if he survives. And so knowing that he was on that property, I thought, I'd like to get some video footage of that buck. I got a little bit early in the season, but at a distance, and I wanted to get some good video footage of him. And so knowing what property he was on right before daylight, I figured he must have been bedded there. So I went and sat in the stand, and lo and behold, 30 minutes later, here he comes, and got about 3 good video clips of the buck. He busted up his rack a little bit, must have been fighting, but, just trying to put some history together. So if I kill him down the road at some point, I'll have that. But, it never stops. I spent some time this week on some public ground. Even went to Indiana and walked some public ground over there. Put a trail camera up, and next season starts as soon as this season ends. And for me, it ended on November 4th when I shot my second buck and filled my last buck tag here in Illinois. So I've been doing what I can. I really got to wait for gun season to be over to to see what survives. And next weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday will be the second and final gun season in Illinois, except for a late muzzleloader season. So here in another couple of weeks, I'll have a whole lot better idea of what bucks have survived and what will be left for me to chase next year.
Right. When we were talking last week, for the people who listened to episode 8, we were in Marshall, Illinois, where we were staying at a hotel room, and my buddy Patrick Simpson and I get a room there, and you came over and ate a nice steak dinner with us, and we went back over to the hotel room and recorded an episode. And I'll just give a quick update to what ended up happening. We were talking in episode 8 about this one piece of property, and specifically this bedding area that it seems to come up a lot in conversation as we're trying to describe what bucks, especially mature bucks, are doing on the downwind side of bedding. And we had I believe a southwest wind that day, that Sunday morning. And we said that we were going to go in there and hopefully see a buck on the downwind side up cruising. And this property had, when we started in the summertime, we had 5 bucks that Patrick and I had considered shooters. And as hunting season approached, 2 of those bucks disappeared, and we had 3 left. And so Patrick I think it was November 1st, shot Curly, just a real awesome non-typical buck. That was the number 1 on the hit lister with a bow. And so we had 2 left on there, two 8-pointers, and it was a really slow morning. And I don't know why, but there was I only saw maybe an hour and a half after daylight, a doe with her fawn went into this bedding area we've talked about. And I don't know why. I think I texted you Sunday morning. I didn't hear a shot, and for the first gun season, that's just crazy. But didn't hear a shot. But soon after I texted you, a buck came out on the downwind side of that bedding area, and I was able to shoot him. He was the smallest of the 3 shooters. He's a cool buck. 6-inch bases. He just didn't carry his mass very well past his brow tines. Not a huge frame. He's outside his ears, so he'll go, mid to high 140s. Good buck. And when I took him of course, you have to cape him out. We're not allowed to bring him back across state lines. But when we cut that skull out, when we got to the taxidermist, he always, I don't know if your taxidermist ever talks about the thickness of the skull. So it'll be really interesting. I sent the front teeth off to deerage.com, sent it out yesterday. So I should know here in the next week. I got the expedited service on it, so I should know next week what how old that buck was. We got pictures of him for the last 2 years, so be interesting. But the story is just that downwind side of that bedding area, and I'm curious to tie that to what you saw with this younger buck that you were seeing, and that you got video footage, because as we're coming out of the rut, those bucks are leaving the does out cruising. He was absolutely, no doubt about it, gridding that backside, downwind side of that bedding area. What was the buck that you were looking at and got video footage of? Was he going to food or bedding, or what was he doing?
No, he was absolutely cruising for does, and he was on the downwind edge of the doe bedding area. That's why I was there. That we had a southeast wind yesterday, and knowing that buck was in that bedding area somewhere right before daylight, I just knew whenever he got out of his bed, whenever he was going to cruise that downwind edge, it was just a matter of did he get up before dark, and he sure did, and cruised right down that edge where he could scent check everything, and it played out perfect. So there's something to it.
Yeah,
for sure.
No doubt about it. As we're getting into pre-rut and into the rut, and then we come out of the rut, come out of lockdown, and we talked last week about the bucks breaking off those and trying to find another one. being on the downwind side of that bedding area and having your entrance and exit to where you're coming in on the downwind side of that, but that buck still has the wind in its favor to that bedding. It's really it's really simple when you actually get in front of it and see it. And we've talked about your master class and being able to look at the stand locations and the bedding. But, you know, you said a long time ago, a tree 15 yards apart might make or break you. It's you're on that much of the ragged edge.
Yeah, the best point you made, Terry, was about those bucks on the downwind edge. They just, I mean, you can just count on it. That's what they're going to do. They're going to use their nose to the same degree that we use our eyes, and you just can't hardly explain it. You almost have to see it in person.
But when you see it, it's really simple. I mean, it really is.
Yep. It's super simple, and it's got nothing to do with sign. You know, all my rut stands, or the majority of them, have very, very little sign around them. They don't have rubs and scrapes like most people think you need to be hunting a rub line or scrape or this or that or a beat down path. They don't have that. And, you know, it takes a certain amount of confidence to just put your stand on a downwind edge of some thick cover. But once you see it, it just makes total sense.
Yeah. Well, you haven't shotgun hunted for a lot of years. I think in one of your rut reports, I think you posted this week the last buck you shot with a shotgun. How many years ago was that?
It was 1985.
Yeah, and I still gun hunt. And I want to tell you something. When that buck came out of the bedding cover, you know, he had his nose down and wasn't paying a lick of attention to his surroundings, was just truly just searching. I grabbed the shotgun, and he actually came out underneath of the stand that you were with me when we hung the stand on the west side of that little wood lot. I was
right
on the east side, and I shot him. He was probably 5 feet away from the stand that you helped him. Well, you were there when we hung, and I put it right in the boiler room. I mean, it was dead on. He runs maybe 15, 20 yards and slows down, and I'm using a Savage 220 bolt gun. So I shucked another shell, put another one in him. He runs another 15, 20 yards going to the north and stops, and you could tell he was, you know, really wobbly about, and I put a third one in him. Don, that deer took 3 slugs inside of probably 65, 70 yards before he finally hit over. These animals are so tough. I mean, it is just amazing what they can hold.
Yeah, some of them are for sure. It makes no sense, you know, but you can put a perfect hit on one and they'll seem to go forever. Make a marginal hit on one, it doesn't seem to go anywhere, but some of them are just tough as can be.
Yeah. I don't know if you've taken the time to watch it or not, but Kyle from Team Radical posted the video of Uno yesterday or the day before. Have you seen it yet?
Yeah, I did see it.
And I mean, there's another example. I mean, he shot that buck and he did the right thing. He waited and he was able to get a second arrow in him. But he called our buddy Ron with the tracking dog Dio as an insurance policy. But you know, man, that whole I recommend everyone going to Team Radical's YouTube page and watching that. It really showcases where Kyle has his priorities. Just a super guy, good friend of both Don and I's, but great hunt on an absolute world-class whitetail that he had been documented for 6 years and hunted for 4. But another example of just you think he was going to run up on top of that hill and fall over and just kept going. Just amazing animals.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it's pretty rare that anybody has 6 years of history with a buck before they shoot it. But that's a great story, and I watched it last night on the Team Radical YouTube channel. So if you get a chance, go check it out.
Kyle's a real good guy and puts a lot of work into it. And I was really I don't think he wanted 6 years of history with that buck.
No.
He's tried to kill him for 4 years, and I think he actually saw him more this year than he had in years past. And it might just be a testament to that deer's home range just keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Just fabulous story by a great guy. So check that out. But you've killed your 2 bucks. You still have an Ohio tag that you're going to try to go out in late season, and I still have a bow tag in Illinois, which means I'm coming back up in late season. There's a couple bucks that we still know about that we have some real world soybeans on, so I'm going to try to watch the weather, and it might end up just being a one-day hunt and me run up there and hunt and come back, but I'm going to try to keep our eye out on that. What do you I think you're going to try to go out to Ohio after their gun season?
Yeah, I'm going to go back out there. I haven't been to that property since the first week in November. Check the cameras and see if anything has moved on to that property. It's kind of a unique situation that I just bought the property last summer, and it closed in July with a business partner. And within 48 hours of us closing, he moved in the heavy equipment and put a 10-acre food plot in. And then in Ohio, where you can supplemental feed, we put in 3 feeders. And the reason we did all that is because in this area, it's very hilly. I call them mountains. Most people would probably call them big hills, but there's not a lot of farmland around, a lot of wood. So we wanted to have the primary food in that whole area. So with the 10-acre food plot, 3 gravity feeders, we're going to have the deer on the property. I mean, when I was there in early November, we already had several, but just no big bucks that interested me. So I came back home, and I'm going to go back and see what else might have moved in on the property here pretty quick.
Yeah. I know that most of the crops are picked now around you, right?
Yeah, there's very little left right here close to me. Now there's some in different pockets here in central Illinois, but close to me, there's virtually nothing left in the fields.
So it's kind of the same scenario, but because of a different root cause. Your area, all of the crops are harvested. A lot of the ground is chisel plowed. In Ohio, around where you're at, there's not a whole lot of ag around it, similar to what you're dealing with in Illinois, but you having the only food source is going to draw deer in, just like you see it on your home farm there with your standing real world beans in late season.
Right. And on the 160-acre property, it's essentially 150 acres of the thickest, nastiest bedding cover you ever seen and 10 acres of food. So we're just hoping the gun pressure from the Ohio gun season will push some deer onto that property, and they'll find those food sources and hang around.
Well, I've hunted gun season in Ohio before. I went up there 1 year with a friend of mine, and I swore I'd never do it again. I've never seen people walk and hunt like they do up there in my life. I mean, I don't know if it was just the area we were at or what, but, I mean, it doesn't matter whose property it is. It doesn't matter who's hunting there in a tree stand. They walk right underneath of you and just wave at you. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. We hunted 3 farms there when we did that, and it was the same thing. We saw people walking the entire time. It was absolutely insane. So hopefully all that pressure pushes a bunch of deer into that bedding, and obviously that food source on late season will be good.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, this property has some thick stuff. So anybody walking around is not doing themselves any favors on that property for sure, because they're not going to see much.
Yeah.
But it's funny that I've had a chance to travel around the country quite a bit, and it's always deer related, and it seems like every state or every region has, different traditions in regards to deer hunting, different ways they do things. And, Michigan, for example, I mean, man, you go up to Michigan and those people are just crazy about deer hunting, but some of the things they do, I mean, quality deer management in Michigan is about, it's about a joke. I mean, you can have, a group of guys that want to manage for quality, but they're outnumbered 10-1 by the guys that just want to shoot everything that moves.
Right.
And you talk about pressure. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. You get on a property up there and it seems like, every other tree has an old tree stand in it, or nails or something, boards from previous
right.
years ago, and it's just a different situation there. And then you go out to Pennsylvania, and that's different. You go out to Kansas, and they got different traditions. You go into Iowa. It's just it's strange, that you can just cross a state line, and all of a sudden the rules change and traditions change.
Right. Well, as we get into our Buy a Farm Property of the Week segment, I got a funny story for you. Last weekend when we were at the I came to Illinois 2 weekends in a row. So 2 weekends ago I was there. Last weekend I was there. There was a group that came in from Michigan to hunt, and there was 5 of them. They didn't lease a property. They paid a trespass fee for 7 days of bow season 6 days of bow season that transitioned into the 3 days of Illinois shotgun. So they all had 2 tags. There was 5 of them. They had come to Illinois, staying in a hotel, all crammed up in a hotel. Don, they were on 106 acres, all 5 of them.
Yeah, I'm telling you, not to make fun of the Michigan deer hunters. Them guys are serious as can be, but man, some of the things that I see is just leaves you shaking your head. It's like, how does
I blame the people that sold them on the property, because I think they told me that they were paying, each of them paying like $1,200 to just a trespass fee, because there was hunters in there for the 2 or 3 weeks before them. So they were this guy was selling the rights to hunt his property in week and a half blocks by the hunter. And so people were going in. There was one off day. They were going in, hanging their stands, hunting it, pulling their stands. And then the next group came in, paid their money.
Yeah.
So these guys were third in line, each paying $1,200. I mean, I felt bad for them. They're like, oh, we're not seeing any deer. And I'm like, it doesn't matter how many you got on that property when you're tromping it up and have the people before you get there. You might have during the rut a shooter go through there just because he's chasing, but man, you're setting yourself up. And I think that's one of the cool things about the Buy a Farm segment that we do every week, is that, people who are looking for out-of-state land, or residents in Illinois that's looking for a specific piece of property, the properties that we're bringing to everybody to showcase on this show have huge potential to not only manage but also save money. So with that, why don't we go into the buyafarm.com property of the week.
Buyafarm.com is your source for farm, recreational properties, rural homes, and more. Now, here is Don Higgins with this week's featured property.
Folks, we got a really special property this week. It's a brand new listing. I was actually on the property myself earlier this week. I am actually a Buy a Farm agent, but I was there with agent Wayne Keller, and we just listed the property this week. And I'm telling you what, it's something special. It's 167 acres in Monroe County. It's about 30 miles south of St. Louis. It's in the Mississippi River bottoms. It's less than a mile off of the Mississippi River. You can actually look across the open ag fields, and you can see the trees along the river. But this property is like an island that sits in a sea of ag fields. And so you're not going to have an issue with people sitting in the line, and shooting the deer as soon as they step across the property line, because the property is just surrounded by open ag fields, and they were all plowed up whenever I was there this week. But the property has been set up more as a waterfowl hunting property. It was signed up in the WRP program several years ago, and trees were planted on part of it, but some shallow water wetlands for the waterfowl were created. And I don't remember how many of these wetlands there are, but several. There's a big diesel pump that pumps water to fill up these wetlands. So you can go in the summertime, you can plant crops of millet or whatever they plant for waterfowl, and then come fall you flood it, and the waterfowl just flock there. And being right on the Mississippi River, I mean, it's the Mississippi Flyway. It's just loaded with waterfowl. And to this point, the property has pretty much been, or the deer on the property have pretty much been ignored. It's just been a waterfowl property, but there was deer sign everywhere. And I'm telling you, all that property needs is a food plot program put in place, and instantly you're going to have fantastic whitetail hunting. The deer are there. They just don't have the food sources that they need, but that's easy. That could be taken care of in a hurry. There's a building on the property already. It's a metal pole building. It's got, an area for storing a tractor, equipment, or, hunting gear. And then there's living quarters on it as well. So, I mean, it's set up, ready to go. All you need to do is show up and plant food plots next spring, and you've got world-class waterfowl hunting as well as deer hunting. And it's priced reasonable, too. I'm telling you, this property is not going to last long.
So this is in Monroe County, so the western side of the state, but south of St. Louis, right?
Exactly. It's only 30 miles south of St. Louis, too, so it's not like it's that far. But I'm telling you, it's not going to last, because it sets up as good as any property that I've ever seen. There's already places to plant the food plots. It's not like you got to go in and clear anything. This place could be ready to rock next October 1st for deer as well as waterfowl. But if you're interested, you want to call Agent Wayne Keller. Wayne's phone number is 618-407-1679. And Wayne and I have co-listed the property. And I want to throw out something else too. This would be a good property to discuss this. But as an agent for Buy-A-Farm, anybody that uses me, like on this property, I'm the seller's agent. So when someone buys this, I'm offering a free whitetail land management plan, just like I do on my consulting work, where I go and a landowner hires me to look at their property and put together a whitetail management plan. Well, anybody that uses me as their agent, I'm going to offer a free custom design plan for that property. So somebody buys this one, that's one of the benefits. I've charged $3,500 for those. Do all I can handle every winter. But the buyer of this property is going to get that for free.
Yeah, I mean, I got buddies that are just south of there on the Mississippi River, and that area is known as the best duck hunting and waterfowl hunting in the world. But when the thing that catches my eye is when it's already in WRP and it already has spots for food plots, there's some giants that will be on that property. That could be a spot that, a group of guys or a single guy could go in and have a ball hunting, duck or deer hunting, and then after he's tagged out, move on to waterfowl the entire late winter.
Yeah, absolutely. My suspicion is that the deer and the big bucks are there. And there's deer on the property now. We seen deer whenever we was there. I think it was Monday or Tuesday I was there. I think it was Monday. But we seen deer. There's deer on the property, but not in big numbers just because the food's gone. But right. I suspect in the summer when those crops are in, I bet the bucks are there. We seen, rubs everywhere. But I think as the crops are harvested and then those fields get plowed up, the deer kind of move on for the most part. If you had a food source there, you would hold them.
Right.
And that's the only thing this place is lacking. And that's so easy to address. The plots are there. Just go plant them.
Right. So you can look at this property on buyafarm.com. I'm assuming the listing is up in Monroe County, Illinois, or you can contact Wayne Keller. What was his number one more time?
Yeah, Wayne's number is 618-407-1679. And the listing is on the Buy a Farm website. I was on there yesterday and today both. That listing is right there at the top under new listings. But I'm telling you, this one is not going to last long. You better get on it if you're interested.
All right, good deal. All right, well, I'm going to pick your brain a little bit about my home farm here for a couple minutes, if that's okay. We've talked about this a little bit, but here in Kentucky, the farm that I shot T3 on, I have a pretty good size real world wildlife soybean plot on the top of a ridge, and falls into a creek bottom on each side of the soybean field. So I have on one side is grown up thicket, rose bushes, stuff that you can't walk through unless you're on the deer trails. The other side is hardwoods and thickets that I've let grow up. So there's another shooter on this property. I had two 10-pointers called T2 and T3 based on the height of their G2s and G3s. I found this week that T2 made it through gun season. He was the buck that I wanted my son to shoot. Haven't gotten on him yet, but I'm running a lot of trail cameras on this property, and he's alive. He is nocturnal. I only got a few daylight pictures of him during the rut, but the one thing I noticed is he's coming from all different directions, Don. So I have bedding in different places around there, but the farm is long and narrow. And one of the questions I asked you about is I'm wondering if he's using the wind and coming into that food plot from the downwind side every time. And, all of my trail cameras I organize in their Econics trail camera software, so I keep them, separated. Is there a way that I can go back when I get time this winter and actually look at the wind direction for the date stamp that's on those trail cameras?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to Weather Underground, and they have history there, weather history. So you can, type in your location and the date and time, and it'll tell you what the wind direction was at that time at that location.
Okay.
And what I do, like what I did with Trump, whenever I was putting the pieces to the puzzle together to try to get Trump, was every time I got a picture of him, I marked, or I created a spreadsheet actually. And I put the date, that I got his picture, the location, the time, the direction he was coming from or appeared to be coming from, and the direction he appeared to be going. And then I would go do my research and get the wind direction. And I charted that for every time I got his picture at every location. And with that buck, he was just so random and it didn't really help there. But I've got another buck that I'm charting now that there's some things falling into place there. Like when the wind is from a certain direction, he's coming to a certain point, and then he's making a turn and cutting across. Basically, down he's coming in to a bedding area with the wind straight into his face.
Interesting.
And then he's turning and he's going with a crosswind across the end of that bedding cover. And this is actually on public ground even. So, if that buck survived, I'll have my cameras out after gun season and through the winter. If he survives, there's a good chance that I might get a crack at him next year because I know what wind direction I need to be there.
Right.
So
topography plays a lot where I'm at because the food plot falls off. So I cannot figure out where this deer is bedding, and I'm not talking about rut pictures. I'm talking about all the pictures that I collected, up until the rut. I honestly, he's not betting on me. I can guarantee you that. I think he's actually betting on an adjacent property, but coming to me to eat. So hopefully those standing real world beans is going to be the only thing to eat here late muzzleloader for my son Jonathan to go hunting on, and we'll get a crack at him. I've had really, really good luck on this piece of property in late muzzleloader season because I'm the only food. Seems like after rifle season, everybody just kind of cashes it in, and nobody does anything for the whitetail anymore. And I think I pull a lot of deer in from the surrounding areas just because I'm the only one that still has food.
Yeah, if you got those soybeans and you get a cold snap, you're going to have the deer. Now, the colder it is and the worse the weather it is, the better the odds of those mature bucks being there before dark. But I think, it's only the 1st of December, not even the 1st of December yet.
Right.
So you still got a lot of time for some of that kind of weather to roll in and you get your crack.
Yeah, that's what I need up in Illinois also for that for the one farm that has the food plots on it there too. I need a cold snap and a specific northwest wind, and I'll probably be in a vehicle heading that way to do an evening hunt here through the end of through December. So.
Yep. Well, we'll get it. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah. So there's one other thing that before we get into our listener submitted questions that I wanted to touch on tonight, and I don't know do you do any Black Friday shopping? You don't do Black Friday shopping, do you?
Nah, I don't shop hardly at all unless I'm shopping for myself for deer hunting equipment.
Yeah,
or something.
I don't do it either, and but I got a couple people that had sent some private messages on social media about I guess some family members had asked them what they wanted, and they were asking about binoculars and rangefinders and some recommendations on it. And I guess they'd kind of gone to the website and got a little bit overwhelmed at Vortex with how many different options there were. And by no means do I want to portray that you or I are the expert in all things optics and everything, because we even use some older Vortex products along with some new. But I reached out to Sawyer at Vortex to get some advice on it, and I just wanted to share this stuff with our listeners. The one thing about Vortex is you're never going to beat their price. But the second thing is if you send a message to them via Facebook or Instagram, or even call their customer service number, they are on it like nobody's business. So everything comes with a price. You and I have gotten to the point that, I guess in the stage of our career, we save up and we try to get the best equipment we can. And a lot of our partners are, the best in the business as far as product quality and the technology in it. But when it comes to optics, you get what you pay for, and the only advice I can give people is buy the best you can in the budget that you're going for. I know you've been kind of in the same boat as that over the years.
Yeah, and the great thing about Vortex is they've got different levels of quality. You can get the cheaper, you can get the mid range, you can get the really good ones.
Right.
But
they're all
backed
by the warranty, though. That's the cool thing.
Yeah. Yeah, for the money, you're not going to beat Vortex, I don't believe.
So, I know people listening are probably in their cars driving, and they're not going to remember this, but if you're going to take anything away from this, send them a private message on social media or an email from their website or a phone call. But they have something for everybody. They have, for your average whitetail hunter in the Midwest, they have like a Diamondback HD series. I personally use 10x50s because I glass a lot in early season, and I don't keep two sets of binoculars or a set of 10x42s. And their Ranger 1800 rangefinder, I have one of those and use it. That is a very good price point for the average whitetail hunter in the Midwest. And then the guys that have more disposable income, maybe they're going out west or they're glassing and they don't want that eye fatigue, that they want that higher quality, that's where you get into the Vipers and the Razors, which is a little bit higher price point with a better quality glass. So I hope that helps. I'm not trying to dodge the question or dodge the advice that people gave me, but the bottom line is don't take our word from us. Just call them. They can help you out with the price point and what you're doing as an outdoorsman and recommend the right model for what you're looking for. So with that, why don't we get into the first listener submitted question of the week?
All right. First question this week comes from Brian McComber from Grass Lake, Michigan. One of them Michigan guys.
Michigan. I bet he's mad at us now for bashing Michigan people.
Well, the thing about the Michigan guys is that there's a lot of them that are great hunters and they want to do the right thing. It's just that they're outnumbered by the people that want to shoot everything.
I'm telling you, the guys that we run into trade shows that consistently kill mature bucks in Michigan, they are the real deal. So, I mean, tip of the cap to you guys up there that are dealing with the pressure that adjacent properties have in Michigan and able to consistently kill big mature bucks. You're the real deal when you're doing it up there. That's our point. We're not making fun of the Michigan people, but the people that are doing it up there, you guys have my respect for sure.
Yep. If you can do it in Michigan, you can do it anywhere.
Right.
But Brian asked, Don, what is your opinion on the use of rattling, calling, and decoys when it comes to mature bucks? Is there a time and place for them, or do you believe they do more harm than good? Thank you. Well, Brian, Terry's laughing because he knows exactly what I'm getting ready to say.
We have the same opinion here.
I don't want any part to do with just about any of that, especially rattling and decoys. I do carry a grunt call that I will use when there's no hope, when the buck's walking away and you got nothing to lose. But my opinion is that for every mature buck that you decoy in or you rattle in or you call in, you're going to spook at least 20. And you're going to educate more bucks than you even know, because all you're doing is saying, you're making that noise and you're saying, here I am, stay away from here. They just, you got to hunt mature bucks like they're a different animal, because they are a different animal. They react different than a younger buck. And when you start doing things like this, they're already, if you think about it, a mature buck is already on edge his entire life. If his eyes are open, if he's awake and on his feet, he's on the edge, totally aware of his surroundings. And when you rattle, call, whatever, those senses just become hypersensitive. And then he becomes even so much harder to fool. Personally, I would forget about all those things and just focus on, stand placement, play in the wind, and things like that. Those are things that I look at as shortcuts. They're people that really haven't learned how to hunt mature bucks yet. They're always looking for a shortcut. That magic scent or that magic call or whatever. And there just is no such a thing. It's not going to work. You just need to sharpen your hunting skills. And when you do, you'll start seeing and killing more big bucks.
I agree with you 95% of what you said. I guess this is kind of a little bit about where or maybe it's just answering the question differently. We probably agree on it, but I am 100% against blind calling or rattling. Under no circumstances am I just, nothing's going on here. If you guys want to go back and listen to episode, I believe 5 or 6, and a dude sitting on the property line banging on a rattling horns to me earlier this year, you'll be able to hear a funny story. But I know that there's guys that have success with it. Patrick Simpson, my hunting partner, he actually rattled at a specific buck this last Saturday morning actually, and turned the deer around and came in. I'm okay with rattling or calling as long as I can see the deer's reaction. I shot a buck on your place last year, Don, that he was getting ready to cross the creek, and it was one of the bucks you wanted me to shoot, and I blew on a grunt call, and he came, instead of crossing the creek, he actually turned and came to me, came in for like an 8-yard shot. So when you can see how the deer is reacting to whatever you're doing, I'm okay with it in those conditions. But to just do it for the sake of doing it, thinking that you're going to blindly call one in, I agree, you're going to mess more up than you're going to you're going to help. But in the right conditions, I don't even carry rattling antlers with me. I got enough stuff that I pack in and out right now that I haven't figured out a good way to get them in. But I do think in some situations, especially in the pre-rut, that that rattling or calling, when you can see that deer's reaction, might have some success for people.
Well, I don't totally disagree with that, Terry, but I think
you're right.
When
you're gonna mess more up than you're gonna help. That there's no doubt about that.
If you can't see the buck, especially, he's going to slip around downwind most of the time. If he's a mature buck,
exactly,
he's going to try to slip around downwind and stay in the cover, and there's a good chance you're never even going to see him. But.
And as far as decoys go, number one, I wouldn't even fool with carrying one around because they'd be a pain to carry out there. And there's some guys that they're just ate up with putting decoys out there. I've never used them and never will. That's as simple as that. So I think
a decoy is a lot more effective. It seems like out in Kansas where it's more open and the bucks are using their eyes to a lot more degree than they are here in the rest of the Midwest.
Right.
But I've used decoys, and I'm telling you, I've seen them spook way more deer than they ever attracted. I'm talking they spook does, they spook bucks. They even spook stupid yearling bucks.
Well, the thing about it is, on Instagram all the time, and Facebook, there's videos. Oh, people look at this buck, this buck, trying to mount the decoy. It's always a young, immature buck. There's never a mature buck coming up to a decoy. I've yet to see one where they come up and try to do something to it. So,
and they don't show you the video footage of all the ones that poked his head out of the brush, seen that decoy, and took off running.
Well, it's probably because they didn't even see it themselves.
I've seen that happen, though.
Yeah.
So
I hope that answers your question, but I definitely think in all cases you're doing more harm than good with any of it.
For sure.
All right.
All right. Next question is from Seth Miller. Seth is from Kutztown, Pennsylvania. He says, "Hi, Don. As a non-resident Illinois hunter, I have land leased in west central Illinois. What advice can you give going into a property with limited knowledge of the property? What are you looking for to hunt over?" Well, the first advice that I would give you, Seth, is never lease a property without seeing it. I'm just trying to read between the lines here on the message that you sent in. It seems like you've leased the property, but you haven't seen it. You're getting ready to go hunt it, pretty much blind. What are you looking to hunt over? Well, that depends on the season. If it's in the middle of the rut, I'm looking for that doe bedding cover. I want to hunt the downwind edge of it. If it's the early season or late season, I want the food. You need to get somewhere between the food and the beds. To intercept them deer as they're moving back and forth. But really, you should do your homework before you ever lease the land. There's a lot of areas that are, overrated, shall I say. And I think West Central Illinois is one of them. The Pike County range. Pike County, I promise you, I've done more work in Pike County than any other county except probably my own home place. Been on multiple farms. I don't even know how many farms. Pike County is the most overrated place on the planet for whitetails. It's been hunted to death. Every hunter from the south and the east that comes to Illinois wants to go to famed Pike County, and they've ruined it. Don't bother going to Pike County. It's a waste of your time. It's the most overhunted place on earth. So you need to do your homework before you lease a property, and that's the best advice I can give you.
So you're looking for food, you're looking for cover, you're looking for access to the property, and then you also need to do a little bit of recon about the adjoining properties. We had that situation on a property that our friends from Lone Wolf had, and starting to look at on our app on our phone to start seeing the people that are around it and finding out what kind of pressure and how they hunt that property. Because I'm telling you, leased ground is so expensive, and you're never going to recoup that money. You're just paying a trespass fee, whether you're going in and hunting it for a week like those boys from Michigan were doing, or you're leasing it to have your hunting rights for the entire year. You're never going to get that money back. So picking, even if it takes you more than a year, multiple trips out there to find the right property and be able to lock it up for multiple years is the key. And I'm an out-of-state hunter that goes into Illinois also and leases property. But finding what's the food, does the farmer do a rotation of row crop on it? Does he chisel plow after he harvests? Is there bedding on the property, or are they bedding somewhere else? And then my access in and out. And then you can put game plans together on when you're going to take vacation to go there and hunt. Because some properties will hunt better in early season, some will hunt better in late season, some will be better rut places. So don't do anything blind. There's people out there that are just making highway robbery to out-of-state hunters coming in and charging them crazy amounts of money for something that will not be worth a nickel.
And while we're talking about leasing, purchasing a property is a much wiser use of your money because you're building up equity. When you lease a property, you're just basically giving away your money to access a property for a period of time. But even when you lease, you're limited on what you can do to that property. You don't own it. So,
right.
You can't go in and cut timber and enhance bedding areas and clear areas for food plots and such. But if you would figure the money you spend on a lease and double that by taking on a partner, and then you and your partner go and buy a property and make an annual payment on it. And there may be ways to get some income off that property. There may be some tillable acres, that you rent out to a local farmer. Well, that gives you even more to put towards your payment. And in the end, you have 100% control of that property. Plus, you're building equity. You're not throwing money away. You're building equity in something that down the road when it comes time to retire, you're ready to hang up your bow. You can sell the property and recoup some of that money you've spent.
Right. I met another guy actually at the hotel a couple of weeks ago, and he was all excited about a property that he was planning on leasing for next year that he had found while he was up there, and how he was going to be able to go in and put food plots in, like plant some real world oats or some plot topper, and then let them harvest. And I said, "Are they going to chisel plow?" He said, "I don't know." I said, "Are they going to do a fall spray with a residual?" "I don't know." It's like, you need to find that information out, because, if you're putting a whole plan on a leased property around, being able to do food plots, and another guy is, leased the farming rights off of it, you got to know what that guy's plan is too. Because you could go in there and put all kinds of seed in the ground and not grow a thing because of what he's spraying. So, yeah, you got to do your research.
And guys, I am leasing properties myself, so I know. And I was just thinking the other day, man, I was looking at a new property. I'm thinking, man, should I lease this property? I'm already spending this much money here and that much money there. And well, crap, the money I'm spending, I could make a property payment. Maybe not a big property, but I'm leasing these properties, and I'm trying to find a giant buck. Sometimes I'll lease a property and not even hunt it. Yeah. In fact, I've got 5 properties I can think of right off the top of my head. They're not big properties, any of them, but they're properties I pay money to lease them that I did not even hunt this year.
And I hunted 2 of them.
Yep. So, and I'm fine with that. I've got a lot of friends that hunt and such that I think I counted up the other day. I've had 13 guests here, hunting properties that I either own or lease, and I'm fine with that. But, I'm spending a lot of money on a lease and getting nothing in return, except for access to that property for a short period of time. Yeah. And I'd be a whole lot better off if I'd put that money towards a purchase of the property.
So, I mean, that's our advice for you, buddy. But do your homework. Please do your homework. There's so many variables on these properties, and flat. Just people are taking advantage of out-of-state hunters taking their money and it not being worth anything. So, and different people have different goals they want to get. So that's the other thing.
Right.
So, all right, we got one more.
Yeah, the last question is from Jay Coach from, I think that's how you spell his last, or say his last name, Koch. But Jay is from Spencer, Indiana. And Jay says, say you obtain a piece of property right before late season, December. Walking into the property, what type of sign would you look for? How would you predetermine if the deer are using it during daylight hours or under the cover of darkness? Say 50 acres of soybeans, maybe 10 acres of woods adjoining 290 acres of state property. That's all timber. Beans still standing as of 11/29. This is a question that just came in. So the beans were still standing yesterday. So let's go back. What type of sign would you look for? Well, obviously you want to see fresh tracks that the deer are currently using the property. You're probably going to hopefully see some rubs, some big rubs. But if you just got permission on it, you've got a decision to make. Do you first go in and hang your stand conservatively and stay back on the edge and observe and slowly move in? Or do you stomp the entire property to find the number one spot on the property for your stand and then put it up knowing that you put pressure on the property? And personally, I like the conservative approach. I like to sit back and observe from a distance first. But going in late season, you don't have time to move. You got to, the season will be going out here in another month or so. So you move pretty quick. So you just want to see that fresh sign. The next question is, how do you predetermine if the deer are using it during daylight hours or under the cover of darkness? Well, trail cameras and observation is about the only way you can do that. It sounds like you got a big sanctuary right next door that's all wooded. So my guess is going to be the majority of deer are bedding on that ground, feeding in the crop fields. If there's much pressure at all, and it ain't going to take too much, especially for a mature buck, he's going to learn to stay back in the sanctuary until it's dark and then come out and feed in those soybeans.
Yep.
You got anything to add there, Terry?
Well, if beans are still in on the 29th of November, that's late. So I would try to find out who's farming that ground and figure out what's going on and what their plans are. Because if, and are they going to till? Or they, what are they going to do after they harvest? I don't know what Jay's financial investment could be, but even if he could pay, what did he say, 50 acres of soybeans are there?
Yeah.
I mean, if he could pay that farmer, if that farmer's not harvesting beans till December, a lot of those beans are going to be shattered anyway because he's not using real world beans, but that's awful late. So if he could pay that farmer to leave some of those beans in, 2 acres on the inside corner or on one side that he could have standing, I would investigate that. Because my guess is if the farmer's not done it yet, he probably wouldn't charge a whole lot to leave a couple acres out there. But I would sure try to find out what's going on with those crops, because the colder it gets, the more they're going to be using those beans. And I agree with you. I mean, we're getting to the time of the year where we're only going to hunt evenings again. Now that if you can find your food source, that's going to be your best spot.
Yeah, absolutely. We just we got rain today. It's supposed to rain again tomorrow. We got 2 inches here. It's just muddy as can be, standing water everywhere. And I'm guessing Spencer, Indiana, where Jay's from, got the same thing.
Right.
I'm going to guess that farmer's not going to be in that field for some time. Those beans are going to be there for, a minimum of 2 more weeks. But you still don't want him to go in 2 weeks and cut them all, and then the deer are going to instantly move off.
Right.
Yeah, if there's a couple acres left there, that'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, that's another idea. I mean, I've gotten property access late in the year and gone in. I have a buddy of mine that just bought a piece of property, and he wants me to go in and walk it right now, and I don't want to walk it. I'm just like, let's wait till snow's on the ground for scouting. you still got a buck tag, try hunting it. And, yeah, I would be a little bit more careful. Use your trail cameras. I mean, you're going to see in a couple days what's going in and out on the major trails into that bean field, and if it's during daylight. But if you have standing food, and it gets cold, you got a shot at something.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that would be my advice to him. So, All right. So, hope you had a happy Thanksgiving, and we're getting ready for, we still both got a tag, so we're still going to work on achieving some goals here through December. But I hope that as we're all thinking about the Thanksgiving season, I really hope that everybody enjoyed what's really important, and that's their family and being able to spend time with it. I know I'm not sure if some of it came on the podcast or not, but I got all 3 kids of mine. I took it pretty hard. I know you've already dealt with it, but I took it pretty hard when my oldest daughter went off to college this year. I know you've already been through that phase of your life, but having all 3 kids back in the same house has been pretty nice this week. So I've really enjoyed it, and I hope everybody else has also.
Yeah, we had a good time as well. My youngest daughter moved to the East Coast to work at Yale University Medical Center this fall, and she flew back home and the day before Thanksgiving, and still here. And my other daughter came with her family from Indiana. We had a great Thanksgiving, and there's probably nobody on earth that takes deer hunting more serious than I do. And I mean, I'm just ate up with it and have been my entire life. Now that doesn't mean nobody else is serious about it, but I just seem to take it to an extreme level. It's what I live for. But I still try to keep my priorities in order. I could give up deer hunting in a heartbeat if I had to for my family. So sitting in a tree stand, and especially as I've gotten older, gives me a lot of time to think and reflect back. And the most important things in life, I never, when I was younger, I really didn't always have my priorities in order. But as I've gotten older, I've definitely got them in order. And I just encourage, everyone that, you're going to have time to sit in the stand and think and just consider your priorities and how those kids are only going to be there in that house for a short time. So make the most of it.
Yeah, no, it's funny just listening to them all up there laughing. It really is. I could have gone back up to Illinois and hunted tonight and tomorrow, but with everybody here, I wanted to hang out with the family. So I hope that as we wrap up the show, everybody takes time to really count their blessings. And God has just been so faithful to us and been good to us through our lives. And I guess that's what I'm most thankful for, is the gift of salvation through Jesus that we both, I know you and I both cherish, and appreciate what everybody has done in supporting the show. But most of all, we appreciate family time and the gift of salvation. So with that, we're going to wrap it up, and we appreciate everybody's support as we sign off for Chasing Giants episode 9.